And welcome back to the broadcast. We still have Honorable Farah Maalim and Ndegwa Njiru, constitutional lawyer. And we also have Honorable Joash Maangi joining us virtually. Honorable Maangi will come to you briefly, but Honorable Ndegwa Njiru says he has to say something, to probably wind up on the debate that is being presented by Linda, Farah Maalim here.
I told you brought a great debater, Mheshimiwa Speaker Farah Maalim.
Yeah.
And,
the in-depth.
And of course, the much I like about him is his candidness with the truth and hitting the truth as it is. I do not dispute the fact that we need a coalition between Oka, Jubilee, and ODM. Not because we actually fear William Ruto winning, but we fear his presidency by all means.
All right.
And of course, you've heard the great speaker submitting on very serious issues about whether or not a certain community in this country can actually condone or stomach a rigged election. What that tells you is that there are some guys who are so much aggressive in this country, and the aggressiveness was exhibited in 2007 when they went to extent of even disrespecting sanctuaries, killing people in sanctuaries and all that stuff, and the KAG massacre, and flushing people out of their properties in Rift Valley. You've now heard they are saying that anybody who owns over 1 million acres or 1,000 acres will have to think of how to deal with that situation when this guy becomes a president. Yeah. So what that poses is telling us that this guy will pose a serious threat to Article 40 that guarantees right to ownership of property. He's telling us that if William Ruto becomes the president, people will not be guaranteed that their property will be there tomorrow. The hustlers will come and say, come on, you cannot own 1,000 acres or 2 acres. Well, I don't have even a piece of it. So his presidency will pose a serious threat, and that is our fears, because it has previously been demonstrated in Rift Valley. Our people were kicked out of Rift Valley, their land was taken, and they have never been restored to those lands up to date. Yet he is a deputy president. He wants to be guaranteed of the Mount Kenya voters and votes and support. Yet in Mount Kenya region, we still host a litany of IDPs who are kicked out of their land.
Why would you criminalize one person?
We're not criminalizing. I'm just building up on what the good speaker has said.
Okay.
That there are some guys who cannot condone a particular occurrence. And then I'm saying and giving evidential background that yes, this has happened. And when you saw that coalition coming, when you saw the Nusu Mkate government, the Nusu Mkate government, the pen that signed the National Accord, the ink that was in that pen was the Kiambaa people blood. It is the one that signed the National Accord. With our people have been kicked out of their land. Don't you forget that we still remember those issues. They have not been resolved. We are now being told if this guy becomes president, he's going to revisit the issues of making sure that he resets the clock. To what extent is he going to reset this clock? Where will he begin resetting this clock, and where will he stop? For example, let me give you an example. If they are so much dissatisfied with say, for example, the Kenyatta family land, or they are so much dissatisfied with, say, a certain ex-person's land, watakuja wachukue hiyo, sio? Ikiisha, watachukua ingine gani? They will come up to the person who owns the border, and that person who owns the border will also, his border will be taken, and then the converse will be true. Now the person who owns the border becomes a dynasty, and the one who has now lost becomes the hustler, and the war continues.
Let's take ourselves back. Yes. Let's take ourselves back to moments when we're talking about a possible President Uhuru Kenyatta presidency, and how his presidency would have been equated with the existence of Mungiki and the interference, the likelihood of an interference of the Mungiki sect. The president got into power.
Yes.
And we have not seen so much of that. Why would we assume that such will be the case with the DP's presidency? And like I rightfully ask again, just how much of an undoing is a community to the interest of a certain individual? Because if this is what is going to dictate the chances of the DP, then don't you think it's somehow misplaced?
You see what he has, for the last 10 years...
Make it brief so we can have...
For the last 10 years when he has been a deputy president, he has not guaranteed Kenyans that he's going to respect the right to the ownership of property. Secondly, he has not guaranteed Kenyans that he's going to restore the property rights that have been previously lost, especially in Rift Valley.
How many people have presented manifestos, have guaranteed Kenyans that they're going to address certain things, but they do not?
You see, these are isolated cases. And when President Kenyatta coalesced with William Ruto, those issues became silent because at that particular time what the focus was to take over power. The focus was on how to win an election. And those underlying issues which are seriously teething could not have actually emerged as part and parcel of the campaigns. But remember, our people have always spoken about the question of the resettlement. So why is William Ruto silent about the question of the resettlement? These hustlers that you see pushing mkokoteni here, these hustlers you see pushing wheelbarrows here, they are children of the landless people who were kicked out of Rift Valley. People who used to farm, they used to till their land, they had housing, those houses were lost.
Have the other presidential hopefuls guaranteed the people of Kenya the same? Or it is just a finger being pointed at the DP? Let's allow
just a moment.
DJ, let's allow the DJ.
One of the
yes, okay. Let's just have it go to him, Okay. Yes.
Sorry,
DJ.
Sorry.
Thank you, Linda. With due respect, I continue to worry about the direction Wakil is taking in his argument, because what Maalim said is correct. He said that if you steal a Kalenjin fort, that will be a recipe for chaos in this country.
Why
but
Kalenjins?
Instead of us, Ndegwa has gone totally tribal. Ndegwa has gone totally tribal. It's a fact that come 2022 is going to be very difficult to steal elections. I'll tell you why. In 2017, the Supreme Court set a very important precedent that if you do not open the server, the elections will be nullified. I'm telling you that is still in our law books, and it's going to be very difficult to steal elections in 2022. There's this thing about what Kimeme said about the deep state. Then let me say that the deep state is largely overrated. In 2002, Moi was the deep state himself, but Kibaki won. He tried to impose Uhuru, he did not succeed. Kibaki won. In 2007, Kibaki was president, but he lost. He lost to Raila Amolo Odinga, even though they stole later. In 2013, Raila was head of half of government, was Mukate, and Kalonzo was vice president. But they lost to, people who could have been non-entities, Uhuru Kenyatta and William Ruto. If we take this discussion a little bit international and look at in America in 1992, Bill Clinton versus George Bush. George Bush was the deep state. He had been director of CIA, he had been senator, but he lost to Bill Clinton. In 2016, George Bush defeated Hillary Clinton, even though Hillary Clinton had the entire system supported by Obama administration. And look at what happened last year. Biden defeated Trump. I'm giving these examples to show that this question of deep state is absolutely overrated. And I am telling you, Kenya is now mature. We are democratically mature. Come 2022, elections will not be rigged. If elections get rigged in 2020, especially if William Ruto wins and elections get rigged in 2022, I'm telling you, as Maalim has said, this country will be divided into two. I'm telling you. So we must move away from this issue of relying on deep state to rig elections and win elections straight. If Raila Amolo Odinga wins the elections, let him be declared president. If William Ruto wins elections, let him be declared president. And we must also, Ndegwa is a fairly young lawyer. I am surprised with the kind of tribal attitude he's having, talking about our people who are just away from Fire. One who is the president today.
But that's the truth.
The president
Honorable Maangi, probably I'll ask this with all due respect, and if there's anything that continues to bedevil us is the aspect of tribe. One thing that a majority of us would want to bury our heads in the sand, run away from. And truth is that tribal factor is hugely altering, our expectations when it comes to just making sure that we shape the politics of the nation to be healthy. So, in as much as you'd want to castigate what Wakili speaks of, reality is that the tribe factor is one thing that is here with us. And there could be some level of truth in what he says.
No, we must, one of the dictates of civilization is that we must move away from bad characters or from bad behavior.
But have we?
Let me say this. Say this. Ndegwa says that William Ruto has not resettled the people of Central Kenya who lost their land in Rift Valley. Now he forgets that the president of this country today is a Kikuyu. So who do you want to do the resettlement? The deputy president or the president?
Okay.
Again, as I said earlier, he does not seem to understand how presidential systems work. In a presidential system like ours, the president is in charge. The president is the one who sets the policies. The president is the one who determines what to be done. If there are people to be resettled wherever in this country, the person to take the initiative is the president himself. And the president today is not William Samoei Ruto. It's Uhuru Muigai Kenyatta.
Can I do a rejoinder, just a short rejoinder before Mheshimiwa speaks?
Yeah.
The president could have had the intention to have these people resettled.
But
the hosting community has never been receptive. On Saturday, I got a visitor in my house. And he's all the way from a place called Molo. He's a Kikuyu. And what he's now telling me and what he was telling me is that the tension there is very high. There's a lot of mistrust and distrust between the host community and the Kikuyus there. Why? Because William Ruto, when he became the deputy president, and when they had this declaration of never again, that never again promise ought to have been followed with the call for invitation and peace, an invitation for those people who left their land to come back. It was not the initiative of President Uhuru Kenyatta to say, now you go back. The president can easily say, go back to your land.
Yeah.
But how about the host community? Were they ready, and are they ready to receive the people that they chased away? Finally, I cannot be labeled a tribalist when I speak about my grandmother who had some piece of land in Molo, and she's currently in Kirinyaga, as we host her. I cannot be told that I'm tribalist. I am looking at the right to the ownership of property. And if speaking about people who are chased away from Rift Valley is tribal, let him then guarantee the respect for property rights. And if he does so, even the so-called the dynasties, even the so-called those guys who own the big chunks of land, the bourgeois, will support him because they know that their property will be respected. Their right to property will be sustained, and those who have lost properties will be restored. We are only asking Mheshimiwa Ruto, if you become president, if in the unlikely event you become president, will you restore the property rights that have been lost so far?
Land disputes, they go from way back.
You see, let me tell you, we are operating in a political climate. When I first came to Parliament in December of 1992, and there were clashes out there, because number 2 was Matiba and number 3 was Kibaki. Moi had 1.8 million votes. Matiba had 1.4 million votes, and Kibaki had 1 million votes. The late Jaramogi had 900-something thousand votes, actually just shy of 1 million votes. the issue that time was, okay, the people who are going to be chased away from Rift Valley as a result of those clashes and because they did not support Moi. And very simply, they were brought to Kirigiti. Is it still a stadium? What do you call it?
Yes.
The stadium here, and many of them were brought in here. And they were simply told, where are your farms? Where is your original ancestral land? Your indigenous land before you were settled by the Kenyatta one government in Rift Valley. You get my point? Now those Kikuyus living in Molo and other places and other places and other places, if push comes to shove, and they were told your grandfather was a Mama what do you call fighter. Now you bought yourself a farm here for 5 acres. But your farm
is on the other side.
On the other side, and they were taken over by the elite of the Kikuyu, the Mount Kenya, they took it over for nothing. How many of them will say, take us back to our own farms? How many of them would want to see those historical injustices, according to them, addressed from the colonial time up to that time? So it was the colonialists who took away their farms, and then the mountain elite who replaced the colonial white people. So there you can get a narrative that can easily be, I am scared hell, I'll be honest with you. Because I come from a community that's hardworking, that has acquired profits on its own, that is beginning to go into farming everywhere. I have farms myself. You get my point? And I don't have those farms in the Eastern Province. I have them in the rest of the country here. My own farms, bought with hard sweat, not allocated. You understand my point?
Yeah.
And I know what William Ruto and the team that's around him is capable of doing right now, and how they can grab that initiative and get a wild following. You understand my point?
Yeah.
I'm not going to run away from this country, but I can assure you that many people, I don't know if Ndegwa is also going to run away, but then many people are going to run away from this country. So, to forestall that possibility, not that I have a problem myself with a land policy that's going to deal with some of these things in the future and say, look, it's a bit preposterous to have so much idle land. But I don't subscribe to the concept that it can be grabbed on what you call forced acquisition. What is it? Compulsory acquisition. To go out there and to distribute to the other people out there, which he will be capable of doing that.
Yeah.
The law is there. Compulsory acquisition is there.
And
then they say because of, he's
public
he's a lawyer.
But reality is that there's so much land that is lying down here. And I mean, there are very many Kenyans who could put that land to use.
You see, he's a lawyer himself. There's something called sociological jurisprudence, which essentially it is that the law resides in the society itself. Now, if the society, what is the greater good for the bigger, what do you call
the public interest?
Public interest comes
Take
in.
that land
and is the public interest going to be in the interest of 20, 50 bourgeoisies, or is going to be in 50 million people?
Wow.
You understand my point?
Yeah.
And he has the courage,
and the capacity.
Absolutely. He has the courage.
And the ability and the audacity.
But we didn't vote for, indeed, again,
he is a person, I know him very well. I know him very well, like the back of my hand. He is decisive. Get my point? And he doesn't care. This is a guy who has the capacity to say, how much land do I own? 2,000 acres or 1,000 acres. Give it away and let me remain with only 100 acres. Doesn't he have that capacity?
Yes, he has.
And then he says everybody should follow suit. Now, how many of people are going to follow suit? You know what I mean?
Yes. And how many are going to lose their land to others, and how much animosity is going to...
My couple of 100 acres myself, which I bought with my hard sweat, I don't want it to be taken away from that on a compulsory acquisition.
So don't you think then it will be
I prefer on a willing buyer, willing seller kind of a thing.
Yeah.
So although I have no problem with an element of a new land policy in the country to try and make this as fair as possible, but I don't believe in that revolutionary way of arriving at it. We are headed for that, and it's constitutional, by the way. It's there. Yes. Compulsory acquisition is there in the law. In the law, yes. And he can compulsory acquire all your property and say that it's for the greater good, give you a tokenism of that amount and tell you how much you buy it from. In the first place, I got it free. Okay, maybe we'll give you 100,000 shillings per acre.
Very many of us would be excited
Yes,
for
yes,
that to
yes,
happen,
yes,
you know,
yes,
to be
yes.
honest. Honorable Maangi, and let's look at briefly, because we don't have time, and I'd love for us to, you know, probably touch on this aspect of getting, you know, a coalition that then would come in, well, for the greater benefit of the nation and not to counter what the Deputy President will be presenting. When they speak of One Kenya Alliance, speak of ODM, and speak of Jubilee and other small parties coming together to work, the question then is, who will shelve their interest for who in this case? Because we understand that if these gentlemen were to work together, and I say gentlemen because we've not seen a lady who's coming out to probably also declare her interest hugely. I mean, they all say they would wish to go for this top position. Who is going to shelve? And what are the guarantees that this is going to work, having not worked in 2017 in as much as Farah Maalim says it worked?
Linda, before I answer that question, allow me to say something about the sanctity of title. You know, the sanctity of title deeds in this country is sacrosanct, and it's protected by the Constitution. All of us must know that once you own land, if we're going to have compulsory acquisition, there's a procedure to be followed. It's not realistic to say that a president can wake up one morning and order everybody to surrender all the land they have. No. In any case, the declaration of never again in 2013 was a good thing. That's how come Kalenjins and Kikuyus came together and formed a government. And if you look at what happened between 2013 and 2017, the government was fairly stable. We are a very peaceful country. And we must always go back and say, accept that mistakes were done, but let us not keep on living on those mistakes. Now, let me talk about coalition governments. In this country today, there are two people, as I've said, who have the capacity to campaign everywhere in this country and who look like they could win. That is Raila Odinga and William Ruto. These others, like Oka, I mean, if they form a coalition and there are four of them, and we have only two serious seats that are available, that is the seat of president and deputy president, what will happen to the other two? Because this is what they were pushing for PPI, so that there will be room for, you know, a prime minister and two deputies. So it could have a. So we need to move away from this belief that every senior politician must get a seat on the high table. We are a democracy. Let us accept that whoever wins becomes president, and whoever loses accepts that he has lost. That's what happens everywhere in the world. This coalition thing, if you look at the Deputy President William Ruto, he's not interested in this coalition. He's not very interested in those coalitions. If you look at Raila Odinga, I mean, Raila says, if you're going to form a coalition, you are joining me. So he's also not very interested in coalition. He's simply asking them, I stand a better chance of becoming president, so join me. Raila Odinga is not going to join Oka, so he can support Kalonzo Musyoka to be president. Raila Odinga will not join Oka, so that he can support Musalia Mudavadi to be president, or Gideon Moi. Raila Odinga will join Oka, so that Oka can support him, president. That's a reality we must accept, and the sooner we accept it, the better for all of us.
All right, well, let's pick some feedback here, Honorable Farah Maalim, and we come back to you and Honorable Ndegwa so that we can wind up on the conversation and the possibilities of a coalition working against the DP. Jacob Odede says, Kenyan politics is very unique. It has no permanent enemies. We Luoland voted for Kibaki, a man, of course, despite the weird stories we had been told about the Kikuyus. What makes you think that the people of the mountain are rigid as a stone to an extent that they can't come to terms with the reality? Wakenya wamechanuka, sasa ni nani? And Martin Kiambi says, we have voted Raila and we will do it again. Meru isn't northeastern. Well, Joseph Ochenge says, why do everyone think Mount Kenya is all that matters to be a president? Why then did Moi rule for 24 years if Mount Kenya is that, you know, crucial? And well, someone is saying, Speaker, Maalim has become the most unpredictable person today, almost joining his party leader. What a mellow kind of thing. And another person says that, you know what, Honorable Farah Maalim is just UDA heart-wise, but body-wise is in...
No. You see, Ndegwa described it very well.
Yeah.
Look, I'm here as two things. One, to give my political conviction.
Position, yes.
Conviction, which is, I'm not going to vote for Ruto. You get my point. I've said this many times. But secondly, if you are a politician and you divorce yourself from reality, and you become a wishful, you fantasize something and then you just sing that. Remember one time we were in Fort Kenya. We were in Fort People, and we went. I was a chairman of Fort People, and we were with Maangi's constituency and the late Nyachai. Yeah. So tulikuwa tunasema watu wengi sana. That used to be our slogan. But of course there was no chance, because there was NAC, which was the rest of the country that has come together with the Kibaki Tosha thing, and there was KANU, which was with Uhuru. So what was left with us? It was just a couple of 100,000 votes. But again, we somehow believed that some miracle was going to happen and Nyachai was going to win. And I was there running around. So I don't ever fantasize with emotions and wishes. Be very candid. They say, when you want a certain law to be passed, picture that law in the hands of the powers of your worst enemy. If you can be comfortable with that, that's a good law, good piece of legislation. But if you're not comfortable with that, don't just pass it because you have the instruments of power that time. It can be used against you. You see what I mean? So to cheat yourself, you better cheat other people, but don't cheat yourself. So I know what this guy is capable of doing and what he has right now. The other thing is, Maangi was talking about the so-called deep state and the comparison with the Kenyan situation. It's very different. The American situation is totally different. America, I think Maangi went to school in America, but I'll explain to him something that he needs to know. In America, it was the first 13 states, independent states, that came together. So elections are essentially, exclusively a state matter. The central government has no role in the elections. You get my point? In other words, if you have to superimpose there with ours, then the county governments would be in charge of the elections. So which is not the case in our case. And that's how George Bush Jr. won with what they call about 500 votes against Kerry. What was his name? Against Al Gore. Against Al Gore.
Florida.
In Florida, because the brother, Jeb, was the governor. And the secretary was of the state itself. That state called Florida was in charge of that thing. And I think they did a bit of a rigging there. So the point I'm trying to get at here, tell you, is that it's different. Here, the deep state works. And let me tell you who the deep state is in this country. The deep state is the head of civil service, the chief of defense forces, the director of intelligence, the governor of the central bank, the KRA boss. You get my point? The police commissioner before, but now he's the inspector general. Those kind of a limited number. The CID guy, those are the deep state. If you don't have, and when we were in ODM, we had none of them in there. Okay. Thanks to Raila, because he is the one who approved the extension of the terms of all those things and appointments of all those when he was there as a prime minister. And
the same
and later on you complain that you've been done in when you could have balanced it that time and made it a national thing. He made it an entirely, with an exception of Kimayo, who was the URP.
The other side,
Only Kalenjin. The rest of them were all from the mountain region. All the rest I mentioned. What do you call it? Pierce, the Minister of Internal Security. Pierce, the Minister of Internal Security, is a powerful guy.
Powerful.
He's more powerful than everybody else. So basically what I'm trying to tell you, the deep state exists in this country. They can manipulate things. They can change anything they want. But this time around, I implore, let's never, ever imagine we can do that. Okay. Now, the final thing I want to tell you is that we are now talking about politics and trying to put some strategies and say maybe we can stop this, we can stop that. I don't know what's going to happen. But whatever happens, let's have a very safe country here. And the way to guarantee that safe country, is to have free, fair, credible, verifiable, transparent and verifiable, which can be verified, elections in the country.
All right.
We have never had that for the last 3 elections. We didn't have it in 2017, we didn't have it in 2013, we didn't have it in 2007. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
And by the way, Moi was a serious statesman, very, very serious statesman. He did not want to influence that election. And he saw it coming, but he allowed it because he wanted these things to play out, because he was going to leave the scene anyway, and you can't control the scene. You can't control from the grave. He's already not there. He's expired. So the fact of the matter is that let's have something for posterity that essentially is going to be there for generations to come. So peace and a fair game.
All right, and Wakili, as we close,
Yes,
you
yes.
say that the president has already told the mountain where not to go.
Yes.
And therefore, the president will probably do anything in his power to make sure that he blocks the
I think
presidency of the deep.
The president is a Democrat.
Yes.
And I believe he believes in democracy.
Uh-huh.
And he has allowed even the defiant and rebellious saboteur, William Ruto, to continue campaigning. He had the capacity of making sure that he doesn't campaign, but he allowed him. Remember, in the second term of President Kenyatta, William Ruto became a saboteur. He operationalized and implemented a sabotage strategy to make sure that he blames the president for anything that is not done. That is why he has cleverly, in a very, very, very treacherous manner, associated himself with the only good things that the president has done. To date, even as William Ruto claims that he's not in government, whatever good president has done, he's very quick to grab it, he's very quick to associate himself with it, and then he says, okay, this is what has been done by the Jubilee government. But where the Jubilee government has gone some faults, he's very quick to disassociate himself with it. That's very high degree of treachery, very high degree of dishonesty, very high degree of misrepresentation of facts, and that's a person we cannot trust for this country for all purpose and intent, and I am lacking any kind words to describe him. But I want to say that we shall have a free and fair elections. And because of what Speaker Maalim has said, that you cannot mess up with some guys in this country, let William Ruto come out clearly and tell us that when we win and we beat him fair and square, his people will accept that he has lost elections.
Yeah.
And two, that the Kikuyus in Rift Valley will not bear the bunts as they have always borne the bunts. Remember, in 1992, the Kikuyus were kicked out. 1997, they were kicked out. 2007, they were kicked out. We want a guarantee now, William Ruto, that in 2007 and 2022, the Kikuyus will not be affected by the political operation machinations and operationalization. No, the Kikuyus have never attacked the Kalenjins.
But you see, because of the bitterness, anything can happen. And so we say, we hope.
No, it is the Kikuyus who are kicked out of their land. It's not the Kalenjins.
And they're very bitter
the history
about
is there.
So
TGRC report is there.
Yes.
The Kiumi report is there. The post-election violence report is there.
Yeah.
All those reports are documented. And mark you, this time round, we want peace in this country. Right. And the good thing is, the president is a peace lover, and that's why he went for his brother Raila Odinga to shake hands.
And overlooked.
And I implore upon he was never overlooked.
Oh,
he's a defiant child who left his bedroom just because another wife has come, another mother has come. The mother came akajengewa pale, na yeye akaendelea kukaa na nyumba yake ya mama mzee, lakini akaondoka kwenye boma. What would you do? Mheshimiwa, please tell your guys to negotiate with BAMBA and Jubilee, so that we get this country and save this country from Ruto's menace.
Honorable Maangi, 1 minute, we close.
Linda, the amount of vitriol from Ndegwa is just amazing. He's an angry man. He's really angry against Ruto. I'm surprised. When he says that the president has given directions to Mount Kenya on who not vote for, that is not correct. I don't believe so. And in any case, to one president is better advised to behave like Kibaki behaved. Let the people decide. When Ndegwa says that the President Uhuru Kenyatta has allowed.
Oh, we have lost him. On that note, I think we close.
Let me just say one word.
It is the law that has allowed. It's the law that allows Ruto to campaign. He has a right to campaign. And we must rise above this tribal bigotry and accept that Kenya is a democracy, and we must...
You see, Linda...
make it brief, sir, so we can close.
Let me make it very, very brief. When I tell you that we are in a very critical situation, take, for example, the Coast Province today. You think the Coast Province, I know ODM leader is popular on the ground in the Coast Province.
Yeah.
But the mere association with the president today,
Of course.
and how the coast has been devastated
By the presidency.
by this Jubilee government.
Yeah.
In the fact that they brought in the SGR, they stopped what you call the road transport all the way from here to Mombasa. Those small towns have died, or on the verge of dying. And then they moved what you call everything and forced it to go to an ICD in Naivasha. And you know how much capital Ruto can make out of that and say that's a private property. You understand my point? And these are the kind of things. And then, there's bitterness in the country. There's a serious bitterness everywhere, from Turkana all the way down to there. And then, Ndegwa said that a number of what they call functions have been devolved to the county governments. The county governors are corrupt. Who is supposed to hold them to account? The center. Is the center holding them to account? No. Now, can the ordinary person or ordinary citizen back there in the county hold his governor to account? No. Where does the failure come from? Uhuru. Not anybody else. As he has put it, the executive powers are in the hands of one person.
Yeah.
You get my point?
Uhuru.
Yes, he's the one. They will say, okay, fine. And then, of course, you have our prime minister, our former prime minister, hobnobbing with some of those governors. You get my point?
Yeah.
What do they say? They take money to him. Yes. And he's corrupt. And that's basically why he is there with those governors, because the governors, and he doesn't care about the common man. Those are the kind of things he's going to build on very much. Who are the governors associated with Ruto, for example? Let me tell you one thing.
Nanoko. Very few.
The best performing governors.
Makueni, governor. Is
Makueni governor? Yes, he did a good job there. I don't know how well it is. Let's let the jury be coming out there. But of course, in the eyes of the people of Makueni, they see him as somebody who has performed. Kwale governor.
Yes.
In this current devolved system, Mvurya, the best performing governor. Obado, very popular on the ground. I don't know if you know that.
Yes, he is very popular, but not performing so well. He has his issues. Yes, we have to close.
But extremely popular on the ground. Yeah. You understand my point? So there are a lot of things. Who are the governors who opposed him and who are saying all sorts of awful things against him, and then look at their backyard and see how they have performed. Zero.
Well, thank you so much. At least Oparanya tops the list amongst the few who perform.
You know, Linda,
we have to close.
Just as I finish up, he has given up Ruto's lineup. If you put Raila there or Kalonzo and Ruto there, na uambie watu wapange line, kwa watu wa Ruto wapange, Rigathi is there, Sonko is there, Obado is there,
corruption
you know, all those guys are there, and then there's another line for Baba or for Kalonzo Musyoka, and there is somebody called Munga, there's somebody called Eskai Masharia, there's somebody called Farah Maalim. Which line would you choose?
Let's hold it at that.
Which one? For the one with the Sonko or the one with Farah Maalim?
It is for you to answer.
Yeah.
Thank you so much, Honorable Farah Maalim. We have to close.
That you don't see him as a performer.
He's very popular.
To the common people.
He is.
To the common people. He has that Sonko rescue.
All those things. Thank you so much, Honorable Farah Maalim, former Deputy Speaker of the National Assembly, constitutional lawyer Ndegwa Njiru, and joining us virtually, Joash Maangi, Speaker. Sorry, what did I say? Speaker. I wanted to say Speaker, but yes, Deputy Governor of Kisii County. We close it at that. Thank you so much for creating time for us this morning. Oh, the feedback is immense. The people of Ruto will finish you. I hope you get home safe, to the office safe, and I hope we get to see you. All right, thank you so much. We close it at that. And we get over to a different conversation on matters nutrition. And of course, it's diet and diabetes after this break.